Ancient Civ class. Hey, all right. So this is now the second half of the characteristics that you need for a civilization. Okay. Remember in our Zoom call yesterday, you heard about people need to live in cities, right? I mean, sorry. Some people are still going to be farmers, right? But the vast majority of people now live in cities because the farms are productive enough. You have job specialization. Okay. People get good at one task and they trade it with others to get what they need. And then the third thing is they have a written language. Okay, so now these are characteristics 4 through 6 that you also must have to be considered a civilization. All right, so here we go. So number 4, right, fourth thing you have to have is an organized government. Now, let's back up for just a second. Remember, we learned that when people start to farm, they begin to have village leaders. Okay, but that's not really a full government. Like that's having a leader, but I wouldn't call that a government really. Okay, I mean, that's just somebody that basically is leading your troops, I guess, if you will, or your men into combat to protect your village and your food supply. It's not really a government. So here's the reason really that the earliest governments formed, right? And the main reason is, okay, if we're going to have a surplus food supply, remember, we need the farms to grow and organize and then ship all that extra food to the cities. If we're going to continue that process, we need to have a government in place. Okay, we need to make sure that those transactions and those pieces continue to move smoothly. Otherwise, the rest of our civilization breaks down. Okay, if we don't have a surplus food supply that's making it to the cities, then everything falls apart. Okay, and so that is really probably the primary purpose of early governments. So who would lead these? Well, it might have been priests in some areas, but honestly, the most common is going to be a warrior king. Okay, and a couple pieces real quick here. The warrior king, of course, is obviously the one that's leading the troops in the army in combat. Okay, and they're typically going to establish a fancy term here. We give you a hereditary dynasty, okay? Meaning they're going to pass power on down to their kids so that when the king dies, we don't have this big fight and squabble over who's going to take over, okay? It's his oldest son, okay, or one of his sons. And that way there's peace and harmony, hopefully, within the civilization, okay? So a hereditary dynasty. All right. And these early governments, they're going to do all the same things, honestly, that our government does today. All right. The thing that I'll point out is this is the first time now that we really have what's called a bureaucracy. So when you're just a village leader protecting your farming village, you don't need employees that work for you. Okay. But if you're going to collect taxes, if you're going to pass laws and make sure everybody knows them, if you're going to build roads and keep them repaired, then you need bureaucrats, you need government employees that are making sure those things happen, right? You need tax collectors to go around each house. You need someone that's going to be the engineer that's going to oversee the constructions, okay? So we have honestly millions of people that work for our U.S. government today, and they're all technically bureaucrats, okay? They work for the government. So this is a new development now in history, right? So fourth thing you must have, number 4, organized government, okay? Number 5, you must also be able to basically build, I mean, this title is kind of vague, arts, architecture, and public works. It really means, guys, you have to be able to build big, impressive stuff, okay? And if you can't do that, then you haven't reached a very high level of sophistication. So typically it might be temples and palaces, okay? Those would be the most typical fancy projects that would be built, okay? And that makes sense. It's going to make sure that everybody knows that the king is super powerful, right? Because he lives in the palace. It's going to make sure that the religion is well respected because it has an impressive temple. All right, so those are natural buildings to build. But the thing is too, you could also build some of the things down here. You could build an irrigation project, okay, a series of ditches and canals to water your crops. You could build an impressive bridge over a big river. Maybe build a wall around your city to protect it, okay? And that's all showing that you've met these other characteristics of civilization, right? Like you have to have job specialization to build these type of buildings, okay? You've got to probably be living in cities. You got to have a bunch of people that can do this job other than just farmers. You need an organized government to organize it, right? I mean, people aren't going to willingly just sign up to do these big jobs. And you're probably going to have a written system of language, right, in order to get the directions out and to just keep all of this big, huge project flowing. To know what people are supposed to do, you're going to need written language. So this is just basically proof that you have met the other characteristics so far. All right. So again, building big things. That's number 5. And last one, number 6. I won't spend a lot of time on it. It's just having a complex religion. So it's more than just burying loved ones with goods for the afterlife now. Okay, you're going to have organized gods and goddesses that you'll worship. You'll probably develop some type of holy book. You'll have some religious ceremonies that your people follow. Okay, these are all elements now of having a true complex religion. And the one term that I'll highlight, almost every single one of these early religions was polytheistic. They worshipped more than one god. And they believed, it sounds strange to us moderns, but they believed that the gods and goddesses controlled nature. So, it rained because the rain god was happy with you. Okay. The rain god would send too much rain, it would flood when he was angry with you. All right. Like there would be a storm on the ocean because the ocean god was mad. Right. So they thought that science was controlled by the gods. And the best way then to keep the gods happy is to oftentimes, sacrifice animals, or we'll study later in the trimester, sacrificing humans even to keep the gods happy and on your side. Okay, so that's a brief overview of characteristics 4, 5, and 6. There's a short assignment about these 3. I think it's just 5 questions. A short assignment about these 3 factors or characteristics. And then today there's a wrap-up assignment where you'll need to use all 6 of the characteristics, right? The 3 that we learned about yesterday and the 3 that we learned about today. All right. Happy Friday. Again, contact me on Zoom if you've got questions, or shoot me an email. Hope you guys have a great Friday and a great weekend.